So Kim and I met at Utah State University in a math class, and it was my freshman year of college, and we met in this math class. And by the time we fell in love and decided that there was a relationship there, Kim was a completely different person than the person he was when he lived in Brigham City and when he was growing up. We always joke about that if we had known each other in high school, we really wouldn't have liked each other because we were completely opposite. Kim was kind of the wild guy, and I was the really good girl. So it was good that we met later. But that's what makes this story really powerful, is just to see how people can change into and morph into a better version of themselves. So before we get too far along, I'd like to introduce the other three people that we have on tonight that were real key players in Kim's story. And so first of all, Gardner Jepson, if you'll just say hi, we can all see your face. If you say hi, unmute yourself and say hi.
Nice to be here.
Awesome. Okay, so, and then we have Teresa Baum-Wooten. Teresa, can you say hi?
Hey.
Awesome. And then we have Tony Faber.
Good evening, everybody. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Okay, so Kim's going to share a couple pictures while I tell about each of these people. So first of all, Gardner. Gardner was born and raised in Manaway, Utah. He still lives there today with his sweet wife, Jana, and he plans to be buried there. He says it's the best place on earth. He graduated from Box Elder High School, served a mission in California, and earned his teaching degree from Utah State University. He started teaching at Box Elder High School in 1972. He taught woodworking for 21 years and then taught driver's ed and later financial literacy. He retired in 2010. He married Jana, also a Manaway girl, in 1975. They're the parents of 13 children and 37 grandchildren. They just returned from serving a mission together in Lansing, Michigan, being sent home after 4 short months when the missionaries were all being called home. Okay, Teresa. Teresa is our second person in this webinar tonight that we want to highlight because she's so involved. All three of these people were very heavily involved in Kim's life at this point. Teresa lives in Charleston, Utah, which is near Heber City, and she's the mother of 4 grown children, and she's the grandma of a mischievous 3-year-old named Van. She's married to Jeff. He's an adrenaline seeker, contractor, and a volunteer fireman. Ages ago, Teresa says, she was crowned Miss Utah State University. She later became Mrs. Utah and was in the top 5 in the Mrs. America pageant. She's been a teacher for 24 years, and she was privileged to be named Educator of the Year. She is currently a BYU Clinical Faculty Associate, which she says is just a fancy term for someone who teaches and supports BYU students majoring in education. She also works as a partner with Wasatch County School District in placing qualified students in an intern program. Jeff and Teresa enjoy hiking, mountain biking, and scenic rides on the Harley. So she still likes motorcycles. They are currently Zoom Sunday school teachers for 13 and 14-year-olds in their ward. Then we have Tony Faber. Tony, he's the guy in the gray suit in the middle. Tony grew up in California with his parents and his 2 brothers, Dan and David. He served a mission to the Utah Salt Lake City North Mission from May of 1981 to November of 1982. He served during the period when missionary service was 18 months. In April of 1985, he married Ann Hawes. Together, they lived in Atlanta, Phoenix, and San Diego during Tony's medical training. After finishing his medical training, they moved to Washington State with their 3 sons, Justin, Ryan, and Joshua. While living in Washington, they welcomed Caleb, Samuel, and Gabriel. In 2004, they moved to Bountiful, Utah, where they presently reside. In 2011, they adopted 3 siblings from the Ukraine, Jonathan, Hiram, and Heather, who are now 26, 22, and 19. Shortly after moving to Bountiful, Tony came across Best Woods while searching for Kim. And it turned out to be owned by none other than Kim Best. It has been a sweet reunion between the 2 families. So here's a little background on Kim. Kim was born in Salt Lake City with his sister Holly. Kim's the one on the right. Kim's mom and dad moved to Brigham City. Kim's father owned Robert's Hair Fashions for about 30 years. Kim loved anything on wheels, skateboards, bicycles, and of course, motorcycles. Kim started racing at the age of 8 years old. At 12 years old, he won the Ty Brazelton Memorial. Kim was a novice racing against amateurs and experts. At one point, Kim and his father were ranked number 1 and number 2 in the state of Utah. It seemed as if Kim's life was protected many times growing up. One day, coming back from a race at Hot Springs Raceway on Highway 89, just outside of Brigham City, Kim, Corey Ballard, and Doug Moore hydroplaned and rolled 5 times. Kim, Corey, Doug, and 3 motorcycles were all ejected by the time the van came to a stop, missing a house by a few feet. Miraculously, all 3 survived. Kim turned professional and raced all around the country. At one race in Florida, crashed at going over 100 miles per hour and somehow walked away uninjured. Kim's racing career hit a major speed bump early in the 80s when his bike's engine literally blew up. Due to the nationwide recession, his sponsors couldn't fix it. It looked as though Kim's life dreams were shattered. So in desperation, Kim came back to Utah, where his friend, Rich Daines, talked him into moving to Logan and giving college a try. College was something he had never considered. This bump in the road would forever change Kim's life. Let's have Kim tell you some more about his story in his own words.
Lots of people. All right, good. So first of all, welcome everybody. This is pretty amazing that we live in a time of unrest and this COVID thing, and yet there's these amazing blessings that come. How could we meet together like this, people from all across the country, and then to have, okay, this is really amazing to have everybody that was a part, the key players who were a part of my conversion, all with us tonight. So it's pretty amazing the times that we live in and the amazing things that we have because of them. And so welcome everybody. And I'm going to share, I've shared many of these things with my children. My children love these stories. They're pretty amazing. My wife calls me legendary because of the things that the people she talks to that knew me in Brigham City and the things that happened there. I think it started with Larry Penrod, who's on here right now, who actually taught me how to ride a wheelie on my bicycle, but he taught me how to ride wheelies, and that transferred into bicycles and into later to motorcycles. But when I was maybe 10 years old, I was at the bowling alley parking lot, and I talked all of my friends into laying down on the asphalt, and I made this rickety ramp out of wood and some rocks, and I was going to attempt to jump all of them. I think I watched too many Evel Knievel movies, and I thought, if Evel Knievel can jump 21 cars, I can jump 6 of my friends. So anyway, I laid them all out in the bowling alley parking lot and took off got way back behind, I think it was Hamilton's or something like that. They're in Brigham City. Looked both ways, make sure nobody's coming, and pedaled as fast as I could. And as I'm looking at these guys way down there, I see them laying down like sardines. And I see their little heads pop up, like they're just popping up to see what, when I'm coming and what's happening. David Orem was the last person to lay down. So he was the furthest away from this little rickety ramp. And he was trying to decide whether to lay on his back or lay on his stomach. I think he was thinking about which would be worse if I didn't make it. So he ended up laying on his stomach, but I just pedaled like crazy, and I hit that little rickety ramp, and I just sprung up and flew through the air, and I cleared my friends by like a mile. That was me growing up, just totally fearless. And I'm so glad their moms didn't know what we were doing that day. Like my wife said, I skateboarded. Philip Soreka, I don't know if you guys remember Philip Soreka, and Craig Dietz good old friends of mine, and we just were like on this cutting edge of nobody skateboarded in Utah, but we did, and we were kind of at the cutting edge and doing all sorts of crazy things on skateboards. And today, I still longboard. And actually, when I ran my business for 15 years, Best Woods, I rode a skateboard every single day of my life at Best Woods, because that's how I got around. Everybody just got used to me, the boss, on a skateboard in the warehouse or in the shop, because I couldn't stand walking because it's so much faster to get on a board. Of course, when OSHA came, the skateboards went away, but that was my mode of transportation. And like I said, Larry Penrod taught me how to ride wheelies on a bicycle. Well, that transferred into motorcycles. And I was hoping Chris Savage, I know, is Chris Savage on? I don't know if Chris Savage is on, but if you are, just type something or wave your hand, and somebody will, I don't know if he made it on, but he was the only one that could stay with me on a wheelie. And we would go on the freeway between Bear River and Brigham City, this big, long uphill. We'd start down in second gear, and we pull up on a wheelie, and we go through the gears, and until we got going like 65 miles an hour. And it's really funny because, and we do this also on Highway 89. And so when we'd slow down to pull up a wheelie, cars would be passing us, kind of annoyed. And then pretty soon, I just learned to change lanes on a wheelie. You just lean. So I started changing lanes and passing these cars that once passed us. And then, you see these, they didn't have minivans back then, but they had, what were they, station wagons, a fan full of station wagons. And when we'd pass them, I kind of look out of the corner of my eye and see this car, that passed us a little while ago. And then we end up passing them going 65 miles an hour. And they almost pull off the side of the road because they couldn't believe their eyes. But that was Chris Savage and me just being, riding wheelies as far as you could almost see. Somebody commented just a little while ago, I was riding a wheelie down Main Street, and somebody, I think it was Lisa. Is it Lisa? Are you on?
I am on.
Okay, so hello, Lisa. You made a comment that you saw me riding a wheelie. Did you say on Main Street?
Yes, it was. It was near the Brigham City sign, and I think you had a girl on the back in traffic.
Oh no. Okay, a girl on back riding a wheelie. All right. Okay. Well, thank you. That let me share you. It must not. I thought it might have been this time, but let me share you that another time was. I didn't think I rode a wheelie too many times down Main Street, but I guess there's more than one. But the time that I remember, I was riding a wheelie down Main Street, and as soon as I set it down, this blue car pulls up beside me, and he rolls down his window and says, "Pull over." I kind of knew, who it was or not, it was an undercover police actually. And I'm like, and so I'm like thinking, I look at him and go, "What?" And he goes, "Pull over." And I'm calculating, I'm right in front of, just approaching Checker Auto. And I'm just timing. So I turned to him one more time, said, "What?" And he's like, "Pull over." Or right before I passed Checker Auto, we're just like this. And I'm going, kind of looking like this. And I go, and I zip on home, and I'm just doing all these back roads. And I ride my bike home, and I pull into the garage and park my bike. And then I go in, we have a garage door that leads to our kitchen. And I walk in the door, and there's my mother and my grandmother sitting at the table. And I said, "Guess what?" I told them what happened. And we're sitting there talking, and my mom says, "Was he driving a blue car?" And I said, "Yes." And he pulled up to my house, and I ran back to my bedroom. And the police officer came into my garage, felt my bike to see if it was hot, and it was. And so he didn't go to the front door. He went to the garage door and knocked on the door. And my mom and my grandmother just stayed in their chairs. And then he knocks again. This time he knocks really hard, and the door swings open. And my grandmother and my mother were sitting at the table, staring at the police officer like, they just were just caught. And so they called me out and I said, how did you know where I lived? And I had my racing helmets had my name on the back, Best. During the week, I'd always put duct tape on it because I didn't ever want anybody to read my name on the back of my helmet. But he read that, looked it up in the phone book, and guess how many Bests there are in Brigham City? One. That's kind of the life that I led. And in high school, I remember snow was flying. It was deep and nobody can park in the parking lots. And I rode my motorcycle all year round. In fact, that was the winter was the best when it first snowed, and I just go sliding around on my motorcycle. And I just loved it because I did flat track, and I was just used to that kind of riding. So I had a blast. And so I go to school on my motorcycle, and nobody can park in the parking lots because it's like this deep. And so no cars are in the parking lot. School's already started, and I just can't seem to get off my bike. So I go sliding. I go in these big open parking lots. Nobody's there. And I'm just going sliding all over the place. And later I heard half of the Box Elder High School was at the window. Teachers love me, by the way, watching Kim Best slide around this, in the parking lot, doing these big slides and just disrupting class. So, okay. And I wish Corey Ballard was here. I just talked to him yesterday. Is Corey Ballard on? And I'd actually forgotten about this. I talked to Corey Ballard yesterday. He reminded me that we actually rode through the top floor of the high school on a motorcycle. Now, I know Larry Penrod did this. I was really disappointed when I found out Larry Penrod had already done this, not the top floor, the road through Box Elder High School on his motorcycle. Because he came and stayed in our Airbnb like about just 2 weeks ago, and he shared this story with us. And Sheree was fascinated to listen to him. And I didn't know that other people had done this, but Corey Ballard and we were so daring. And actually, somebody told me they held the door open. If you're here, just unmute yourself and remind me of that. But because somebody on social media reached out and said, hey, we held the door open for you when you rode your motorcycle through the hallways at Box Elder High School.
Hey, Kim, that was me.
Okay. And who is this?
This is Jay Yates.
Jay Yates. Okay, Jay Yates. Okay, what do you remember about this?
It was pretty exciting. I just remember the teachers trying to chase you down through the hallway. Oh, boy. And then
Okay.
I had a difficult time getting down the stairs and out the door. But we got you out, but you still got in trouble. I got suspended for a couple days because of it. I was just
Okay.
an accomplice, though.
Yes. Oh, my. So I know we were daring. So to go up on the top floor of Box Elder High School, and I remember at the very top, there's on the top floor, it drops down like just 3 stairs or something like that when it goes over the breezeway, and we were jumping down that and down up the stairs and down the stairs, and yeah, we did get caught when we had to do some community service or something like that. My neighborhood. So my neighbors, oh my gosh, I just think about how did they ever live with Kim Best as their neighbor. I had racing motorcycles, loud motorcycles racing up the street all the time. I'd work on them at all times of the night, and then I'd run them up the street doing wheelies. And I taught all of my friends. We had a bunch of guys, maybe 5 or 6 people that all had TT 500s. We called them thumpers. Every time we came to my house, we would just be going super fast, all of us coming in. And we do these power slides or compression slides into our driveway. And after a while, I got to notice these big black marks that led to my driveway. So, I mean, the police and everybody knew where Kim Best lived. You just had to follow the skid marks that led into my driveway. And when they'd go to church, I'd be working on my motorcycle playing AC/DC, Highway to Hell. and working on my motorcycles, and they would walk on the other side of the street, would stay away from me. Then, as Sri had mentioned, I was going to make a living at racing. That was my life. That was my focus. I mean, it kind of saved me in so many ways because I didn't get caught up into drugs, and I was really taking care of my body because I had to be at excellent fitness. I was so fanatical about this. And I look back at that and I think, wow, that was actually, it saved me from so many things. And I'm so grateful for that. But I was 100% going to be, my goal was to be #1 in the nation. Somewhere in the 80s, that's when my bike blew up, literally blew up, man, and it destroyed the engine completely. These are super expensive. Or the nation was in a recession, not like we have recently, but enough that my sponsors could not put me back out on the circuit and fix my bike. So I came home, and that's when Rich Daines, I remember, said, hey, there's the college scene. Talk to me about the college scene. I'd never thought of that. Never crossed my mind. Nobody in my family went to school, or I said, sure. I mean, girls and fun and college, I had no idea what it was about, but that is a decision that I made. Well, I didn't make. I kind of see the powers working in that regard. And I ended up going to Utah State University, and something happened. I mean, something was happening to me. I wanted to stop swearing. I mean, where does that come from? I mean, my parents and my family, like they swore like sailors. That was just a part of our language. I don't know why. I just all of a sudden wanted to quit. So I knew some things were happening to me. I knew some things were happening to me beforehand. A couple girls had asked me to go to church, and I went to church once with somebody I met in a class, and then nothing happened. That's the very first time I'd ever stepped foot into a church. And then somebody asked me to take the missionary discussions. She actually taught me to pray. And then when the missionaries had the meeting set up, she said, oh, she didn't text me. She called me or left a message somewhere and said, oh, I'm not going to be able to be there, but go ahead and meet with them. I'm thinking, no way. So I didn't. And I don't know how much time went in between that. But then there was a class. It was Twain Tippett's class, and it was a big auditorium. And I was sitting in this big auditorium, maybe 150 people, and Twain Tippett was the teacher. And right behind me, or a couple rows behind me, was this really cute girl. And so I started talking to the guy beside me about, hey, do you know who this is? And he happened to know her. And he said her name's Teresa, and she's from Midway or Charleston or something like that. And about that time, Twain Tippett, who is he was just, nobody talked in his class. And he points us out, and everybody, including Teresa, looks at us, and we get in trouble for talking. And we were talking about Teresa. So, but then something happened. In fact, and Teresa's on here now. I'm going to ask you this, Teresa. So go ahead and unmute yourself, because at the end of this class, the same day that we just got called out, and the very same day we had this little conversation, and class was over, and then everybody's leaving, and I thought, dang, all my books were still out, and I thought I was trying to catch up to this girl up here, and I blew it because I had all my stuff, and I was still putting it in my bag, and she was long gone. And so I put my bag together, and my backpack, I should say, and I walked to the end of the aisle, and guess who is there? So Teresa, tell me this. I've never asked you this question, but what happened? What happened? Why were you waiting for me? Or were you waiting for me? That's how I remember it.
Well, first of all, I felt bad that you guys got in trouble, and I could tell really that you were I mean, you guys kept looking over, and I could tell you got in trouble because you were looking over and talking about it. So I kind of felt bad. And and this class was a tough one. It was an art history class that I don't know. It sounds crazy, but it was really tough. So anyway, we started talking, and I think that's when we decided, we need to get together and just do like even a study group. It was pretty casual. And anyway, that's all the details I remember of that day.
All right. Well, keep your mic open because we're going to have more conversations. So this is what happened. We started studying together. And so Teresa, tell me this, because I have little fragments in my memory, but did I bring up God or did you? I mean, because how did our conversation somehow drift into studying, the theory of art to, religious? What happened? Do you remember?
There were a lot of different things, but one, let's see. Oh, I guess it was the day. Well, we were planning on getting together and studying with, a group. And you said, why don't we just go get pizza and ice cream or something and study? This happened to be on a Sunday, and I was a little hesitant because, I grew up in a family that was inactive. I didn't even go to church myself till I was in high school when a friend, invited me. And anyway, that became very important to me, the gospel. And so when you said, let's just go, let's buy some pizza, whatever, I hesitated because I'm like, I didn't I didn't want to hurt your feelings, but I also wanted you to know that I probably just shouldn't go on Sunday. Probably shouldn't, be going to buy pizza and ice cream and everything on Sunday. And I prefer not to do that just because of, what I believe in and what's in my heart. And you were just so confused by that, like, what? We're going to get pizza? Like, what's the problem? And anyway, I think that was one little thing I remember.
Okay. And then what happened? How did our conversations get? Because I remember then while we're studying, was I asking about God or were you bringing it up? Or do you remember?
Well, you were so, I used the word inquisitive in my journal. You were just always asking me, why this or what about this? Or, you were just always curious, I guess. And you were always really enthusiastic about it too. And I guess that was a little surprising to me considering your background. I was a little, confused. But you were just always just so enthusiastic to hear any new tidbit about it. And I felt like I wasn't doing that justice and explaining it the way I should because, here I come from an inactive family and I'm like, well, I'll try to answer it, but it means so much to me, but, I wasn't sure I was, explaining it the best way that I should to help you understand it.
Yeah. Well, what I remember, we would just get off on these conversations and I thought it was fascinating. And the things you're sharing with me were new and I'd never heard them before. And so I just didn't know how that was working. I couldn't really remember, was it you or was it me or was it both? But why don't you share with us, Teresa, because you did share this with me. So why don't you share your experience on when you knew that you needed to ask the missionaries for me to take the discussions?
And sometime I have to share my roommate story because that's kind of funny too, where they had known you prior and they didn't want Kim Best coming to our apartment.
Okay.
We have to talk about that one too, because that's kind of funny, but Anyway, yeah, I vividly remember, and I'll get choked up about it. Okay, so I was on the dance team up there, and we had rehearsals both early morning and at night. And so I was coming home one night. I was walking home. I lived close to the campus, so I was walking home, and I was pretty tired, but I just kept thinking, I kept thinking about you and what an amazing guy you were and are, but just such a nice guy. So much going for you. Really friendly and just really sweet. And I don't know, for some reason, you just kept coming into my mind. And the reason I get choked up is because, you know, I kept thinking, I really should be daring and really just ask him if he'd like to listen to the missionaries. And I was hesitant, I think, because I didn't want you to feel like I was pushing anything on you, or I didn't want you to feel like, I don't know, it's kind of crazy to, I don't know. It's hard to explain why I was just hesitant, but I literally got a feeling just as I'm walking from dance rehearsal. I mean, it started from the top of my head, and it literally just went over my entire body. As I'm thinking, should I do this? And I mean, there is no denying. I can never deny that feeling that I knew I had to get the missionaries to talk to you more about the gospel. And the thing that really struck me as I'm just about to my apartment and I'm headed down the stairs to this ugly basement apartment is basically, you know, if I didn't do it, the Lord was going to find someone who would. And and I just got this distinct feeling that I need to get with it and stop hesitating. So anyway, I'll never forget that. Sorry for the emotion, but it's still strikes me, just it's still there. Really vivid.
Okay, so then how did it happen? How long until you got that experience, until you asked me, and what was my response?
Well, so it's really funny. I didn't sleep very well that night. First of all, because it was just like an incredible experience to just feel that spirit and know that that's what the Lord wanted, you know. And so I thought, oh, I've got to get this off my mind. Like, so the next day, I remember trying to be all brave and decided I would ask you what you thought about having missionaries and learning more about the church. And it was so funny. You were just like so excited and just so happy. And I remember I was like surprised, like what was my problem? You know, what was the big deal? And you were just, from then on, you were just so excited and I don't know, just really happy about it. And you said, yes, I would love it. And I said, okay, well, I don't know. I need to figure out who the missionaries are that are here. And anyway, that's where our ugly apartment came in, and the missionaries.
Man, I still remember that apartment. And And what an amazing experience. So Tony Faber, thank you, Teresa. That was amazing. In fact, just the other day, Teresa shared that story with me. I don't know if you shared that with me before, but I thought that was so amazing. I was so grateful as she shared that with me. But okay, so then Tony Faber. So here I am. I'm sure. I think I remember telling you, Teresa. I said, "Are you going to be there?"
Yeah.
Because I didn't want you to say, "Yeah, I'm going to meet you there," or I'm going to, and then, "Oh, I'm not going to be there." You're going to. So you followed through, and then I met Elder Faber and Elder Ure, and Elder Faber is with us right now. So Elder Faber, why don't you unmute your microphone? And I think you're like a little bit younger than me. Are we the same age?
1962.
Okay, we're the same age. Okay, so we have these two. Okay, what do you remember about teaching me the gospel? And Teresa, you can chime in on this too. So
I want to jump just to a couple years later. After my mission, I went to BYU, and the first place I lived, there were these two sisters that were from Brigham City. And I thought, well, maybe. And I says, hey, I taught a guy from Brigham City. His name was Kim Best. Do you know him? And their eyes got really big. It says, do we know him? He is the last person in our whole high school that we ever thought would listen to the missionaries and join the church. So when you talk about you being a surprise, yeah, you did surprise some people. But I remember when Elder Ure was from New Zealand, and he was just a great companion. And obviously he's not able to be with us tonight. But I remember you, Kim, looking intimidating because I knew you were like this motorcycle rider, but yet you were so sincere. Every lesson we had, you were so sincere every single time. And I kept waiting for okay, is the shoe going to drop? Is he going to come out and just have some huge issue but every lesson was just a great experience, and it was wonderful. And you always get kind of nervous when you're a missionary, when you're like, okay, this is the invitation to baptism. This is where the rubber meets the road. And when we gave the invitation, there was really no hesitation. And it really floored me when, would you be willing to be baptized? And you just said yes. And I'm like, well, no one says yes. Is there anything we're missing? And anyway, and it was beautiful. It's a day that we always remember because it's a special day in church history. Kim was baptized on April 6th. And it was a beautiful service. We had a couple of people that were investigators, inactives, and we always want everyone to come to baptisms. And one of the guys that was there was at a crossroads in his life, and he was going to join the Marines, and he was just couldn't figure out what he wanted to do, but we got him to come to the baptism. And after the baptism, he was so touched that he says, this is amazing. This is what I want in my life. I don't want to join the Marines. I want to go on a mission. I don't know that he ever did, but I know that he had felt that. And afterwards, Kim was, if you could walk on air, it was Kim Best after he was baptized. He just had felt so good. And he kept saying over and over, I feel so great. I feel so great. And of course, he's gone on and done wonderful things. And I'm a great lover of the series The Chosen. And if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. There's a scene in the second episode where a Pharisee is trying to figure out how a woman has been healed. And he initially thought he was the reason that she was healed. And she says, it wasn't you that healed me. And he's like, who was it? What was it? And she finally says, I can tell you, this is what I can tell you. I was one way before, and now I am completely different. And what the difference is, what was in between, was him. And of course, she was referring to Jesus. And I think when in the beginning, when Cherie says, if we had met before, we never would have dated. But Kim had that in-between experience with Jesus, and he was changed forever. And when we look at people in the world, and a lot of times, unfortunately, in the world today, there's so much us versus them, that I think the Savior wants us to look at. If they are not, yet we're in the covenant path, we should look at them as they haven't yet had that in-between experience. And is there a way that we can show the love of Jesus, that they can have that in-between, that they can have that change in their life, that Kim has experienced and has done that for the last 38 years and shared it with his family and his friends. And so for wherever we go, we cross paths with people. And I think the Lord puts people on our paths to help us and to guide us, or for us to help them. And I don't think it was anything special that I did. Kim was already prepared, as Teresa's just talked about how she was friends with him, and just he was so ready. And I just happened to be that person that was there, that I had come that lived my life as an imperfect person, that somehow Heavenly Father could see me to use me as a tool for that instance. And I've often have thought that if this was the only person that I had any influence on my mission, then it was worth the time that I spent.
Wow.
Well, thank you, Kim, for allowing me to be part of your life.
Thank you. You're welcome. Before we talk about my experience going back to my home ward, which is fascinating, let me say a few things about this experience for me. And Teresa, if you have anything you want to add too, I just remember the missionaries being nervous. And I remember Elder Faber and Elder Yor just like being really nervous. And I thought, wow, what's going on, before they invited me to be baptized. And I remember it a little bit differently. I remember saying no. No, not no. But I said, why? Because there's a little hesitation. And I said, why? This is what I remember. I could be wrong. Why do I have to wait so long to be baptized? Mm-hmm. Because your date was like the 23rd or something like that. And you looked at your thing and said, well, okay, actually, we have the 6th open. How's that? And I said, sure. So it was April 6th. And I can tell you, if you were to chart, I've told this to so many people, but if you were to chart my life on April 6th, 1982, right? Was that the year? 82. I mean, if it, on a dot, my life from that day goes up and up and up and up. And it's been on this upward trajectory ever since that day. And I am so grateful. And I am just, I'm so grateful that I found my Savior and I made covenants with him. And I have renewed those covenants on a weekly basis for 38 years. And my life continues to get better and better. I am just so grateful. And the amazing thing, I remember you, Elder Faber, teaching me about Joseph Smith. And the first time I'd heard that God the Father and his son, Jesus Christ, appeared to Joseph Smith, and you asked me if I believed that was true. And I knew it was true. The moment you shared that with me, I knew it was true. And it felt, I mean, I was experiencing things I've never experienced in my life. I couldn't explain it. I can now. I couldn't then, but I knew that was true. And then you asked me to read the Book of Mormon. We're going to get to that too, a little bit about how I said, I have a Book of Mormon. Somebody gave it to me in high school, Gardner Jepson. And we'll get to that when I talk about my home ward. But, and then they asked me to pray about it and find out if it's true. And so I was praying and asked the Heavenly Father, is this book true? And I had been reading it ever since you asked me to. And the Spirit just said, you already know. You already know it's true. And so I came back to you and just said, I already know it's true. And I had that witness. I just got it as I read it. And I think that book, reading that book almost every single day of my life since then and to this day has been the power for me to understand my Savior in a way that I never, ever did or could. And that changed my life. And it was him. Tony, that's exactly right. It's his atonement that, look at well, we're going to talk about my home ward because they didn't believe I joined the church. They couldn't believe I joined the church. And I'm going to finish that story in a minute, but because how could somebody go from what you were, Teresa, do you want to talk about, I tried to get Al Caraway. She's my friend. She's my friend. She doesn't know it. She's the tattooed Mormon. Here's her. I've given her book out to people. It is so powerful. When I was undercover at a business in Tennessee, I was flying back and forth and I was reading this book. I was in tears on the plane. I read it just when I was flying, and I read it, I think, 2 times during this short period. And but it's a powerful book, and her experience, and just reminded me of mine and how difficult it is. But anyway, Teresa, tell me about your response from the people who knew me and wasn't really comfortable with me having me in your apartment, being taught the lessons.
Yeah. Well, one particular roommate knew you quite well. And when I told her that you were coming over for like a study group or to stay for this class, she was not having it. She said, I am not having Kim Best in my apartment. And I've always been really sensitive to stuff like that. I'm like, it just doesn't make sense to me. Like it actually just rubs me the wrong way when people are like that. And so I said, oh, really? So I guess I won't tell you for sure then why he's coming over to the apartment. It's just, well, we're not going to let him come in this tonight. No, I won't have him here. And I said, oh, so not even to have missionary discussions. And you should have seen her face. It was perfect. It was perfect. Anyway,
Wow.
So there's that.
Yeah, that makes me cry, actually.
Yeah.
Because
Well, Kim, if any of you viewers here could have been in the first lesson in our apartment with this dingy green carpet, and and then I can just still see it. But anyway, when they asked if you would pray, I don't know if they can remember this, but gosh, the Spirit was so strong, and bless your heart, you had no idea what words to say. And it was so sincere and so cute, like just so very genuine. That prayer, that I'll just never forget it. And that's what we need to remember, is that every soul is important in the eyes of God, and we need to treat everybody as such.
yes.
Anyway, she kind of had to eat her words a lot. So.
Well, and I know that's so easy to do. In fact, we're going to probably good transition to go to my home ward. Good. We on that tree?
Yeah, and let's just put in there that between the time you took the missionary discussions and was baptized and then you left on a mission was how long? Thinking it was 2 years, but is
Yeah,
that
2
right?
years. Right.
So 2 years. So jump ahead 2 years then, right?
Okay. All right. So here I am. I get a super, in fact, this was my first like audible voice when I was actually considering marrying somebody, and that was we wanted to get married, and the Spirit just said very clearly, "Do not get married, go on a mission." And I'm like, a mission? Elder Faber and Elder Ure, that's my only experience with missionaries at all, period. So anyway, but I got that super strong. I knew it. I knew that's what I needed to do. So I prepared myself to go on a mission, and I had no idea. I had so many motorcycles through my life, and sponsors and everything, but I just said, okay, yeah, that part of my life is on hold, and I'm going to serve a mission. So I sold my bikes, and anyway, so my home ward. This is really interesting. I don't know if you remember this or those that were there, but I was supposed to give a farewell at my home ward at Utah State University. That was the only ward I knew. It's the only ward I've ever been to, and my home ward in Brigham City calls me. The bishop did, and said, "We want you to speak and give a farewell in our ward." And I said, "No." I said, "I've never stepped foot in, I maybe vandalized it, but I never stepped foot in it." I and my neighbors hated me. I mean, and then he said, this is what he said. He said, "Brother Best, we're helping you on your mission." Because I didn't have years to save for my mission. So I think you owe it to our members. So I said, okay, I'll give 2 farewells. And I remember driving to Brigham City, and I drove up to this church, and there was no place to park. And I walked into this church the first time, and it was packed. And this is what I thought later, probably. Nobody in Brigham City believed that I joined the church because it happened somewhere else. And it was just a rumor. They had to see it for themselves. When they found out I was going on a mission, they had to witness with their own eyes and see it for themselves. So I walk in, I'm just this new convert trying to figure out all these terms that I've been taught over the last 2 years. And I look in the overflow, and it's packed. And I get up to give my talk, and I spent 10 hours, and I told the audience, I've spent 10 hours because I'm in college. I was trying to be in college. I'm learning to be in college. I spent 10 hours on this talk, and it was so hard. And I did this. I set my talk down, and I said, I am not supposed to give this message. I am supposed to talk about missionary work and how the Lord puts people like me in neighborhoods like yours. And I said, who is supposed to teach them the gospel? And I've never experienced this before, but I was just saying what was coming to my mind. And I said, nobody invited me to church. Nobody told me about Joseph Smith in the first vision. Nobody gave me a copy of the Book of Mormon except one person. And that was Gardner Jepson. And he was in the audience. And I said, Gardner, would you stand? I was bold and dumb. and he did. He stood. And I wish I didn't have that. I'll use this. And I had his Book of Mormon. And I said, thank you. Thank you, Gardner, for seeing past the long hair, the foul language, the motorcycles, all the things that everybody experienced from Kim Best in Brigham City. Thank you for seeing through the crust of the world and knowing that I was elect. And then I shared, and I quoted this scripture, and it's been my scripture for all these years. Okay. For there are many yet on the earth among all sects, parties, and denominations who are blinded by the subtle craftiness of men, whereby they lie in wait to deceive, and who are only kept from the truth because they know not where to find it. Afterwards, I had neighbors come up to me in tears, just apologizing. And I became really good friends with some of them. In fact, I think Sister Peters was one that just I became really good friends with afterwards and apologized. And did I see her daughter? Her daughter. If you are, just unmute your, yes.
I'm here, Kim.
You are. Oh my gosh.
Mom loved you.
Well, tell me what you remember.
I remember our midair collision on our way to elementary school. You had a bike and I did not. I still have a scar, but I remember you came to my house and apologized, and so I always knew who you were, but my mom loved you.
Oh. Yes, I was playing Mr. Motocross on my bicycle and I ran into you on the way to school. And anyway, but your mother was sweet, and I know that she's since passed, and I've thought of her and became really good friends with her and your father. So thank you. Glad you're here.
Thank you.
And anyway, was anybody else there? At my farewell in Brigham City. Oh, let me do this. Oh yeah, go ahead, Sri.
Oh, so I think we should hear from Gardner Jepson, hear his story of how he gave you a Book of Mormon.
No, I forgot about that. How can I forget about that? So yes, thank you, Sri. This is why she's here. So Gardner Jepson, tell me about how in the world did you see past the crust and tell me about that.
I loved woodworking, and so when I met a student who loved woodworking and who was excellent at it, that gave me a bond with you. I remember that I would teach you something, and then you would do it, and you would do it better than I did. And I soon learned that you were a better woodworker than I was, even though I was teaching you. I will tell you one story that made me like you even more. One of the students in the class said, Mr. Jepson, did you know that Kim Best and I don't remember the other student's name were having a fist fight up behind the bleachers in the gym? And I said, no, I didn't know that. What's going on? And he said, well, the kid had done something in class that had hurt some of the equipment or something, and you had told him to knock it off because I was trying to keep it and make it nice for the students, and he wouldn't. And so anyway, you two had a fight up above up above in the gymnasium behind the bleachers. Now, I don't know whether you won or whether he won, but I was pretty impressed that you would be willing to stand up for me and for the shop and for the school. But for some reason, when you would come in and we would visit and we would talk, and you'd come in not just to class, but you'd come after school or sometimes at lunch or something, and we'd visit for a minute. I just felt like that there was just something different about you. And I think I even mentioned you to my wife a few times. But the problem is teaching school, it would not be proper for me to give you a Book of Mormon in school. That was something that I shouldn't do, and so therefore I didn't do it. But as I thought about you and prayed about you, interestingly, one spring, and I don't remember what year it was, you'd graduated, but one spring, you and Corey came into an adult class that I had in the evening. And so you were now in my classroom, and I wasn't in school. It was after school. And even though maybe I shouldn't have done it because of school, I thought, this is not school. I can give him a Book of Mormon now. And so as we talked, and I don't remember all the conversations, but we had several about God and about things like that. And I just knew that I had to give you a copy of the Book of Mormon. And so that took a little courage on my part because, I didn't want to make you feel like I was trying to push something on you, or that was the reason that I wanted you to come. But you accepted it, and then that class got over, and so I didn't see you again until I found out later that you were taking the missionary lessons, and then eventually joined the church, and I was so grateful for that. So anyway, I'm glad to have had just a small part.
Wow. Thank you. A small part. Gardner, when things started to change, remember a little bit, I was telling you things started to change when I went to Utah State. I wanted to quit swearing. Like, where was that coming from? And what I realized is you planted the seed years before in high school. And you gave me some Paul H. Dunn tapes when I was working at a cabinet shop and driving. And I remember one time you telling me about Moses parting the waters. And I'm like, who's Moses? And parting what an amazing story. And those things, that the seed was planted. And then when you gave me the copy of the Book of Mormon, so it started, Gardner, it started with you. So thank you for all that you did. And thank you. And Gardner Jepson was at my baptism. Gardner confirmed me a member. Tony Faber, Elder Faber, baptized me. Gardner confirmed me a member of the Lord's Church. And so thank you. That was amazing. Let me do this. I'm going to end with my testimony. And I want to show you a picture. I'm going to show you a picture and with my testimony. And then if anybody would like to add after me, I would be happy. And in fact, my wife will jump in after that and give us some instruction. So I'm going to share my screen again. This is a picture of me before the gospel of Jesus Christ, before choosing to follow my Savior, and before entering into the covenant and ordinance of baptism. And this is what I look like. And I'm going to read this scripture. And thus they become new creatures, changed from their carnal and fallen state to a state of righteousness, being redeemed of God, becoming his sons and his daughters. That is truly what has happened to me. I mean, look at the light, and you can see the light. Okay, you can see the light from these pictures. This shows, I mean, even a camera can capture the light that people can't describe. When people see me now, and for years, people would come up to me and say, and they find out I'm Kim Best. They say, and they knew who I was. They can't believe it. or they'll ask me, no, something, they just don't believe it. They just can't believe that the atonement of Jesus Christ can create a new creature. And to be totally truthful, that is the only thing that can change somebody, is our Savior Jesus Christ. And that is why he came. He came to this earth so that we could become like him, so that when we make mistakes, thank heavens that we can repent and become a new creature and change our ways and feel the peace and the happiness that comes when you're doing those things that are right. And I just learned that. I have been so blessed. My life has changed. And it's so interesting because I've been through many conversions. Some, like when I first, a lot of people say, oh, you're lucky, you're a convert. You've had, this great change of heart. And okay, yeah, I have, but I look at my life, and we're all in the same boat, whether we're members of the church or not members of the church, and we become a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It doesn't matter. We have to continue to do the things that draws us closer to our Heavenly Father. And I'm going to share. Okay, I just love this scripture. It's in Alma 32. This reference is fine. But if you will nourish the word, yea, nourish the tree as it beginneth to grow by your faith with great diligence and with patience, looking forward to the fruit thereof, it shall take root. And behold, it shall be a tree springing up into everlasting life. And I remember feeling, oh my gosh, feeling so many things at Utah State University, feeling these things in my heart that were so good, and they're new, and I kept nourishing them. And today I feel those same things. And I'm just so grateful to have, to be able to keep that flame burning. And in verse 42, and because of your diligence and your faith and your patience with the word in nourishing it, that it may take root in you, behold, by and by ye shall pluck the fruit thereof, which is most precious, which is sweet above all that is sweet, and which is white above all that is white, yea, and pure above all that is pure. And ye shall feast upon this fruit, even until you're filled, that you hunger not, neither shall you thirst. So that is just where I am. I felt those, as we talk about this, it just brings back those amazing feelings that I felt way back 38 years ago. I still feel today, like Teresa was sharing and Tony Faber was sharing. And I am just grateful for my Savior. I'm grateful to renew my covenants every week with him. This morning, when we partook of the sacrament in our own home, and I blessed the sacrament and partook of those emblems and renewed my covenant that I made 38 years ago, it was a beautiful, our home feels like the temple. I am just so grateful that we get to partake, even during COVID and these hard times, that I get to use my priesthood and bless the sacrament and partake, my wife and I, to partake in our own home. And what an amazing time we live in. So I'm grateful. I'm so grateful for all that Heavenly Father has done for me to snatch me from that state that I was in. And the cool thing is, I still am Kim Best. I can talk motorcycles. I can jump on a motorcycle today and ride a wheelie out of sight and go through the gears. And it still amazes people. So I brought that with me. My kids love that part of me. My wife absolutely loves that part of me. But yet I am this new creature. Thank you for joining with me tonight and joining with us. And probably Shri, you want to take it from here?
Sure. Yes. And so thank you all for sharing your stories so much. If anybody has a question or anything before we get off, you could unmute yourself, and if you need to go, that's fine. But if anybody has a question or comment that you'd like to make real quick here at the end, that would Now would be the time you could do that if you wanted to.
Where did you go on your mission, Kim?
Oh, good question, Lauren. I was called to serve in the Illinois Peoria mission, English speaking.
Any of your own family that has ever joined the church since your baptism?
Wow. Okay, good question. I am the only one. Yes, my sister, and my father and my mother passed away, and so I'm the only one.
And that girl that you were thinking of marrying before your mission, is that the same girl you ended up marrying then?
Wow, Lauren. Okay, no. In fact, okay, I got to tell you the story because it was fascinating. No, that was actually another girl.
Well, then that was another blessing of going on a mission then, right?
Yes. In fact, it was. In fact, when I came home, let me just finish that story because when I came home, I went to that girl's apartment just to see because I almost married her. And she wanted to marry me and I wanted to marry her. But interestingly, we both got the same answer at the same night. It was so amazing. In fact, Charlie LaFleur, you're on here. Oh my gosh, Charlie, there you are. When I got that answer that I was supposed to go on a mission and not get married, I cried all the way home. And I lived in Logan and we're in Ogden and we're going out for my birthday. We're going to Marie Callender's for dinner. I went down in her basement in her house and prayed and got this answer. And I came back up and told her, and she said, I feel the same. We didn't even go out that night. And I drove to Charlie LaFleur's house in tears. My heart was broken, but I was doing what I knew I had to do, but it was so painful and so hard. And Charlie LaFleur, my great friend, he just stayed up with me and consoled me. And I somehow got through that. And then, yes. Okay. So when I got home from my mission, I thought I need to go see her. And within minutes of walking into her apartment, I knew absolutely that she was not supposed to be, she was not for me. I knew that, and it was really brief, and my sweetheart was waiting for me, and it was Cherie.
Oh, that's awesome. That is great.
Any other questions? Those are good questions.
Hey, Kim, this is Larry.
Larry, how are you? I can't believe
Doing great. After meeting Cherie, I'm sure you got the best end of it.
Oh, totally.
I actually think I got the best end of it.
Then you guys are meant for each other. Thanks, Kim.
Yes, Larry, thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, so I text Kim earlier today, I believe, and I just let him know that I was baptized 9 years ago, and although our stories are different, I heard so many similarities and so many things that took me back to that time when I was learning about the church initially, and just the power of the Spirit, the role that the Spirit played in my conversion, and just hearing your story really just touched my heart tonight and inspired me, and I just felt all of the feels, and I could vividly go back to those different times when the Spirit moved upon me. Or I love how you pinpoint all these people and the part that they played in your life and the role that they've played to get you to where you're at with the gospel and with your testimony. And I kid you not, I'm the same way. I still text my elders to this day, and I thank them from the bottom of my heart that they made the decision to go on a mission and that they taught me, and my institute instructors when I first joined the church, and the powerful lessons we would have. I still reach out to these people on a regular basis, and I thank them because, like you, since the day of my baptism, it has just been up and up and up. I was blessed and fortunate enough to serve a mission, and the gospel is the greatest blessing of my life. And although I'm the only member like you in my family, it doesn't change anything for me. It's true, and I'm gonna keep inviting and sharing, and thank you. I like y'all have blessed me tonight. And ooh, can I say one more thing?
Yes.
Kim, there is something about Kim, brother. You got it. I don't know what it is. You got like an aura, but it's just like your countenance, your spirit. It's just so warm and welcoming. And I feel like you've said some things that maybe if someone else said it, it would come off as prideful. But it's like there's no guile in you. Like it's just pure. Kim, you're pure. I'm so grateful. And I love the Jepsons. I'm done. I love you. This was awesome. This was great. This was truly
Thank
great.
you, Byron. And did you see the Jepsons just smiling as you're speaking? It's a beautiful thing. Thank you for sharing. That's powerful, and you're a great example.
I had one quick comment, Kim.
Jay Yates, yes, go ahead.
Yes, what's going on? Hey, back in high school, I was a fence rider. I did good and bad, so I related to both sides. And later on in life, I found my wife Lori, and we were married in the temple. And I'd heard that you had joined the church, and I said the same thing. Really, Kim, joined the church? But you know what? Just listening to your story, I'm so inspired. It's really a testimony to me about the work going forth from our Father in heaven. And I just appreciate you sharing this tonight. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Jay. And thank you for holding the door open for me.
Hey, dude, it was an honor. Anybody that was going to take on that challenge, I'm in for it.
Okay.
Kim, this is Marianne Bradley.
Oh, Marianne Bradley. Hello. Okay. So Byron, you're in Michigan. We had somebody from Seattle, and you guys are still in what, St. Louis, or where are you?
St. Louis.
Okay. So we have people from all around the country. So anyway, welcome.
And I just quickly wanted to say thank you for sharing your testimony. We had a young man here with us tonight. He's, 30?
Yeah.
He just joined the church 4 months ago and really has been struggling, but hearing your testimony he said, just truly inspired him and gave him courage to keep going forward.
Wow. Thank you, Marianne. Good to see you guys.
Mark's got a great story. He was kind of hanging out there in the background with Marianne. He's got a great story. Maybe he should be the next one to do this. Mark?
Well, Kim, thank you very much. And Teresa and Gardner Jepson, thank you for being great member missionaries. That's what it's all about.
Yes. And thank you for look at our times. Okay. When we couldn't have done this without COVID. We couldn't gather from all across the country and share. Nobody would ask me to give a fireside, and we couldn't all be here together. You know how amazing it is to have Gardner and Teresa and Tony and all of my friends and people who are just interested in what an amazing experience. So thank you. God bless all of you. I love you. The gospel of Jesus Christ is so true. We live in the last days. I see the times coming upon us in just waves, and there's no fear. There's peace. There's understanding. We know we're expecting this, and Heavenly Father will bless us and strengthen us and prepare us for these unprecedented times. And I'm grateful to live in this time period and to usher in the second coming of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And my goal is to be ready. My goal is to be like him. And I know I have so far to go. I'm trying to learn his attributes. I've spent a lifetime trying to follow in his footsteps and become like him. So anyway, God bless you, and good night.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome. Thank you, Rick. Good to see you.
Yeah. Appreciate you doing this. Since asking if I could put a little blurb in a book that I'm writing about your conversion, because it is such a special positive side in the story of the gospel of Jesus Christ and the restored gospel. I can't imagine my life without it. And then to see somebody like you, and I think you painted yourself pretty wild in some ways, that you were a kinder soul than I think you realize in your youth. You were wild on the two wheels, and I could relate to that because I had some of that in me. But anytime I ever talk to you or Holly or your dad or your family, you're kind souls, and that spirit has always been a part of you. You've been a positive energy, and you just needed the plan, is what I see. And part of the reason I went on a mission was Bart Penrod. So the Penrods have been an influence in both our lives, and it's how we all help each other. It's a beautiful thing. You're a good man, and thanks for sharing this.
You're welcome. Thank you, Rick. I'm so glad I got to hear that.
I just wanted to say thanks too, because it's been, I don't know, it's been a little bit of a rough week. So it really helped boost my spirit. I never considered that you would never join the church. That never ever entered my mind. I just knew you from classes and knew you're a motorcycle guy. I don't think I had any run-ins with you except for with my shirt one time, but other than that, I just really appreciate it. It really means a lot. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Kim, I want to thank you for giving your testimony. It means a lot. You did love your motorcycles when you were younger, that's for sure. I remember going to a lot of racetracks with you. We had a lot of fun. So thank you for your testimony.
He wasn't a bad kid.
No, he wasn't a bad kid. He more of a wild child, I guess.
But with a kind heart.
Yeah, but we had a lot of fun together. It's good to see you where you and Cherie are at. It's a blessing.
Thank you, Charlie. Appreciate it. And Kelly. Robin, you were going to say something.
Yes, I was. Kim, thank you so much for.
Oh.
I wanted to say something. I don't know if you remember, we had first hour together in 7th grade with Mr. Meservey. And he loved sending you to the principal's office all the time. Hey, those of you that don't know, Kim and my dad worked together. They both were hairdressers. And I remember going home in 7th grade and telling my dad, I met Kim Best. And he said, you stay away from that boy. And Kim, I didn't stay away from you. You became one of my really good friends. Oh. And, that through time, my dad realized what an amazing young man you were too. But I'm grateful for the friendships we've had all these years. And thank you for sharing this with us. It was amazing.
You are so welcome, Robin. So good to see you. And Grant, right? Hello, Grant.
Yeah.
How you doing, Kim?
We're actually down in sunny St. George right now. So.
Oh, fantastic.
I'd like to say I'd like to say something. This is Tom Davis, Kim.
Tom Davis. Oh my gosh, Tom Davis. Hello. Yeah. I haven't seen you since grade school.
Yes, grade school. So Kim and I went to kindergarten together all the way up through obviously all the way up through 12th grade together. Kim and I lived
I must have missed
approximately the same neighborhoods. Me and Johnny Hepworth, Chip Mumford, and we were all in the same area. But Kim tortured me quite a bit when I was a young man. I was and I want you all to know that I'm the first to cheer him on. Even though we didn't see eye to eye when we were in elementary school, as a lot of kids don't. I was sort of the wuss, and had some resentment for Kim. I love him. I am so grateful for him, and I'm grateful for his testimony and the man that he has become. I'm one of those who didn't talk to Kim about the church. I didn't give him a Book of Mormon because I didn't see him for who he is. And so he's helped me to realize that I need to share the gospel. My wife and I are still on a mission right now. We've been serving in Guatemala, I pray that I'm more open in my testimony thanks to people like Kim. So thank you, Kim. I appreciate everything that you've done for me.
Wow. Thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. Pretty touching.
Kim,
Yes.
this is Tammy Border.
Oh, Tammy Border. Hello.
Thank you so much. The things that you said, I think all of humanity can relate to. And they're so powerful and they are so needed. And I just really appreciate it. And I hope that there are experiences down the road for missionary work, because I think when you have those things in your heart, it's just natural to care about others. And like they said, you might have had a different persona growing up, but you've always had that spirit. And becoming a member of the church is what enabled you to flourish. And what an example that is. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd like to say something.
Okay.
So it's just, Kim's told me a lot about his, over the years as we've been married, things will just come out of things that he's learned. Oh, let me turn my light on so you can see my face. I don't know if that helps. But the way he was raised, like he said, he didn't know why Christmas was celebrated. He thought it was truly about Santa Claus. And, he was taught that whatever you can get away with is okay. And that's kind of how he was raised. And as I've gotten to know his dad, it's kind of the way his dad was raised too. And I don't know beyond that, but we just never know. We just never know what's in someone's heart that just doesn't show on the outside, and as you can see that picture of Kim, the two pictures side by side of Kim rough as a teenager and then kind of a current picture. It's amazing that he can look better now than he did then all these years later, and
I'm glad you think so.
I totally think so. You just never know what potential is in the side, like inside a person, like the diamond in the rough, I mean, you've probably come through generations of people who they didn't know any different, and so they didn't teach any different because they didn't know any different. And anyway, it's just been amazing to watch the miracle of your life. I'm grateful to have been a part of it.
Thank you.
You did a great job when nobody wants to hang up. That was great.
I remember, I was just thinking back at a fireside when I was sharing this scripture about this, when you taste the fruit of the gospel and it's so pure and so beautiful, you don't want to leave, and you don't want that feeling to leave. And I remember the first time going to at Utah State, I don't know if it was with you, Teresa, but it was just a fireside, and I felt that spirit and I just wanted to stay. I didn't want to leave. I wanted, and I still can feel that, how I felt 38 years ago at that fireside. And that's the fruit that you partake of the tree, and that is sweet above all that's sweet. And so thank you. I can completely relate to that.
Thanks so much, Kim. Tonight was wonderful. Thank you very much.
Okay. Good evening. Bye, guys. Love you.
Bye, Kim. Thank you.
You're welcome, Lisa. Oh, hey, and Lisa.
Yeah.
So, okay, I forgot you told me that, and I don't even, I do, I think I remember giving you a ride, but tell me about that real fast, just about.
That's what I didn't want to butt in, but because to me, yeah, you just stopped. I hadn't seen you for, I don't know, 2-3 years. And you just pulled up beside me when I was walking up the hill to campus and asked if you could give me a ride, which I thought was very sweet. And when we got to the top of the hill and I got off the bike as we were saying goodbye, you said, "Hey, just a second, you're a Mormon, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah, I am." And Kim, I could tell a difference in your countenance already. And I don't even know at what point you were in your conversion, but you just asked me how I liked it, how I liked being a Mormon. And that stuck with me, obviously, for 38 years. It was a very special moment that I meant a lot to me.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. And I wondered, what I kind of wondered, was I investigating then?
I don't even know. I think you were, because you mentioned the Book of Mormon. You had the Book of Mormon at that time. But did you ever date Kim Stuckey?
Yes.
Okay. It seems like you may have been dating her then, because I think I lived at Pineview, and I think maybe that's where you saw me coming up the hill from Pineview Apartments. So I don't know.
Wow. Good. Thank you. So glad you got to share that.
Oh yeah. And it's funny because through all these years, I've tried to find out where you were and whatever happened with you. So every few years I would, 10 years maybe, I would find out a little nugget and be so happy for you.
Thank you so much
for doing it. It was awesome.
Yes, you're
I'm
welcome.
so glad to reconnected.
Me too. Thank you so much, Lisa. All right. Well, we will be done. Thank you. Goodbye, everybody. And love you. And so glad we got to do this. Thank you,
Good
Teresa.
night.
Thank you, Tony, especially. And Gardner, thank you especially for coming together and being a part of this.